Reserves refers to the amount set aside out of profits of the business with a view to strengthen its financial position. It is an appropriation of profits and not a charge against profits. For example, general reserve for expansion, dividend equalization reserve, etc. So reserves are the amount of profit that is kept aside out of the profits of the business with a view to strengthen the financial position of the business is called a reserve. Since reserves are neither expenses nor losses, so they are not charged to profit and loss account, rather they are debited to profit and loss appropriation account. As they are neither expenses nor they are losses, therefore they are not shown in the profit and loss account, but they are shown in profit and loss appropriation account. Thus, they do not reduce the profit of the business. They merely reduce the divisible profit among the owners of the business. They do not affect the net profit of the business, but they affect the divisible profit among the owners of the business. It is pertinent to note that if the amount equivalent to reserves is invested in securities, such reserves are called reserve fund. Otherwise, it will be called as merely reserves. If the amount saved as reserves are invested in securities, then it becomes a reserve fund. Otherwise, it is a reserve. Characteristics of reserve. Reserves are credited out of divisible profit, so they are appropriated out of profit. Creation of reserve is optional. If there is no profit in any year, reserve will not be created. So only out of profit reserve is created. Reserves are created with a view to strengthen the financial position of the business entity, and the main purpose behind creation of reserve is to strengthen the financial position of the business enterprise. If the amount of reserve is invested in outside securities, it is termed as reserve fund and not reserve. And if the amount of reserve is invested in securities, it becomes reserve fund. Reserves are created to meet an unknown liability in future, and they cannot be used to meet out any known liability like depreciation, provision for doubtful debts, etc. The main purpose for which reserves are created is to meet the unknown liability that may arise in the future. Reserves belong to owners of the business, so dividend can be declared out of reserves among the shareholders of the company, as they are the belongings of the owners of the company. Therefore, the dividend can also be declared out of the reserves. Importance of reserves. Number 1 is strengthen the financial position. Reserves are basically accumulated profits of the business. They act as an internal source of finance for the development of the business. It is also termed as clawing back of profit. These reserves are thus used to strengthen the financial position of the business. They strengthen the financial position of the business because they are whenever required, they become internal source of finance for the development of the business. Second, use for equalization of dividends. Sometimes a company may not be in a position to declare dividend out of its current year's earning at a rate prevailed for the last so many years. In such cases, company may utilize dividend equalization reserve or reserves for declaring dividend at a higher rate or at old rate. Sometimes the availability of the profit with the companies is not sufficient to declare the dividend at the rate at which the company was declaring the dividend previously. In such case, the company can utilize its reserves, that is, dividend equalization reserve or reserve for declaring dividend, to pay the dividend to the shareholders at the old rate or at a higher rate than the previous year. Provide funds for a specific purpose. Often companies create funds for a specific purpose. For example, creation of sinking fund for the purpose of redemption of debentures. The fund so created is invested in outside investments by way of sinking fund investment account. At the time of maturity of debentures, investments is realized and debentures are redeemed without affecting the financial position of the business adversely. So, for specific purposes, the reserves are utilized. For example, for payment of the debenture holders at the time of the maturity of the debentures. At that time, either the reserve created for as debenture redemption reserve or sinking fund reserve. So, sinking fund are utilized for payment to the debenture holders. Fourth, used to meet unforeseen loss of liability. Reserves can also be used to meet abnormal losses which may arise in future.